Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? A podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Oh, hello again, my friend. How are you?
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Are you like a stay up all night kind of family, or are you like a we're going to bed at normal time kind of family?
My kids this year really want to stay up really late. My daughter was like, I'm going to stay up till 5 a.m. And I'm like, that sounds awful.
Terrible.
I bet my older two will want to stay up. When we lived on the West Coast, it was really awesome because we would do East Coast New Year's. And now we live on Eastern Standard Time. So I don't know, like maybe we can do Paris New Year's or something like that. Like maybe there's some other time zone that we could celebrate. Because I'm not super interested in, I don't know. Maybe I'm a Grinch when it comes to New Year's, but I always feel like there's like so much hype about doing something cool for New Year's. There's so much hype. And I've never really felt like I've done anything that lived up to the hype. And I don't know if there is anything that can.
It always, like, even if I've gone out and like done the big party, it always turns into a shit show. It's like amateur night.
Yeah.
Every rookie drinker in the world is out. And no, you're in good company. I grew up doing on West Coast, and I grew up doing Michigan ball drop because that's where my family was.
Yeah.
So 3 hours earlier. And then as an adult, since we've had kids, I don't think Alex and I have made it to midnight on purpose in at least 7 years.
Yeah.
So
nobody knows.
And I am hosting this year a like 5 o'clock ball drop.
Fun.
And party for some friends. And because you guys, spoiler, here's how the sausage is made. We're recording this before New Year's, but we're pretending like this is after New Year's.
It's after New Year's.
So we are hosting like a 5 o'clock ball drop. And one of my girlfriends was like, okay, cool. So can we stay the night after? Like, we'll party after the kids go to bed. And I was like, oh, no, we go to bed at a normal time. Like the idea of 5 o'clock is so that at 7 o'clock I can be in my pajamas and we can just be like, going to bed.
You need to put up one of those signs that says, please leave by 7.
Yeah, please leave by 7. Or my bra will come off and you will just be.
That might make want them to stay. They might want to stay now. So I don't think you should tell them that.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody wants to see those nips at my belly button. 3 kids, keeping it real, folks.
Keeping it real. Okay, so this episode we are going to talk about New Year's stuff. Right? It feels like we should at least address like goals, resolutions. Like how we're starting out the new year strong, and we want to talk about like creating big goals, manifesting big things for your future, but then also like how are you doing those things, or how are we putting those things into action, right?
Yeah, I'm huge on like one of the things Colleen really want to offer to our listeners and like our retreat guests later this year, and anyone that works with us in this entrepreneurial space is like, okay, all these big ideas are so fantastic, but how do we implement them? Like, where's the action? How do we actually like implement this into our life? So today we want to talk about the big resolutions. Like, did you make one? Did you I think for Colleen and I, it's more like business planning. It's not really a resolution. It's just like, here's my roadmap for this year.
Here's what we're doing.
And yeah. And then like, what steps are we going to take to get there? So we want to make sure that we are providing you with tools and resources to help you achieve those. So I think the first thing is like having your vision.
Yeah.
So are you vision boarding this year, Colleen?
Absolutely. I did it last year. I attended a workshop with a woman who like helps you do the vision boards, but it was like also like, it's a little woo-woo, whatever, but it was like, like releasing the things that you don't want, or you feel like are holding you back. And then creating a vision for the new year and really setting your intentions for the new year. So I did that last year, and I will say I was super like skeptical. I was like, okay, but I love to make a collage, so I'm gonna do it. And another agent invited me, and I really like her, so I was like, great, I'll do it. I will tell you, I would say 90% of the things that I put on my vision board, I achieved this year. And so I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm doing that again this year. Like, I've been waiting. I wanted to do it again with this woman. Her name's Sarah Armstrong, and she's like a coach here who we should get on the show. I'll see if I can reach out to her. But she was not doing them at the end of the year, or maybe she was busy or something. So I'm going to have to do it myself. And I think you and I talked about maybe doing them together, like online. But I definitely I'm going to do that again.
From a relationship-based business perspective, I just have an idea, and I'm always going to share them. You know, if you're trying to build a network and a community around you, why not host the vision board session yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely could do that.
You know, yeah. And invite friends in, and even just like acquaintances or people you want to know, and invite them to join your woo-woo party and create their vision board.
Yeah. And maybe I probably will do that. I've been thinking about that, but I feel like maybe I needed somebody else to be like, do it. You know, sometimes you need that, right?
Do it. Host that party.
Host the party. And it's because I've been waiting to do one because I have a lot of big goals this year, and I want to make sure that like I'm doing the things that were successful for me. And I think that that's something to pay attention to as well, is like, what did you do last year that was successful, or what did you do last year that didn't turn out the way you wanted, and how do you change that? So definitely doing vision boards. Are you going to do one?
No. So here's the alternate perspective. I hate all things crafts, and like that shit is not for me.
Oh my God, I love it.
So, you know, I'm going to probably build a spreadsheet of some sort. I actually started like the Medeiros family 2024, like kind of goal spreadsheet. You know, you and I have one for doing this right pod and all of our endeavors. Got one for business. And so I think you could also do this by journaling, or just like thinking, just like having that think session of like, what is my vision? And vision is different than goal. Like, I want vision to be, in my opinion, vision should be like the big picture. It's not like the small actionable things. It's like, so doing this right pod, like, okay, the retreat is our vision, but the retreat is also part of a bigger vision of like Colleen and I like creating this entrepreneurial space with resources and information, and like really taking this business to the next level is my business. Like, I want you guys to see Colleen and I on the TED Talk stage. I want to be like a nationally known person that is known for motivating, inspiring, and then providing resources to help other people take their motivation, their dreams, their visions, and turning that into their successful life, whatever that looks like. So that's like my vision for doing this right pod. Or like my vision for my real estate business here in San Luis Obispo County is I want to be like in the top 2 names that comes off somebody's mouth in the area of trusted, reliable, great agents that you would work with. So those are like the visions. And then obviously the next step then is to break that into a goal. And I'm sure everybody's heard the term SMART goal. So it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive or time bound. So that's how you break those visions now into goals. So if Colleen and my's vision for doing this right is, you know, #1 podcast and TED Talk speakers, and like creating this beautiful community where we share resources and help people achieve their goals. Okay, now how do we get that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound? And we can't bite off the whole vision all at once. So, you know, this year we're doing the retreat.
Yeah.
And so that is a goal. That is a specific, measurable, achievable, time bound, relevant goal. And we can break that now down even further. And then, you know, we want to be #1 podcast. Okay, well, YouTube is apparently where it's at right now for podcasts and all of that. So, you know, now we begin setting those goals around getting the podcast on YouTube, and then growing our YouTube channel, and getting advertisers, and getting like just more national exposure. So just take the vision and then chew off what's attainable in the time period that you're setting your goal for.
But I also want to say, in addition to that, I want to say is like, don't be scared of that. Don't be scared of that and then minimize what your vision is, right? Like, this is a really strange analogy, but I think it'll make sense. I was helping my son last night build a Lego car. Like what it's like this massive, it was called El Toro Loco. And it's this massive car, and it's one that like you pull it back and goes. So it's a big monster truck car, and it actually functions. And I was looking at it, and this is not my forte, right? To build these things. But the way Lego as a company and as a brand has so smartly broken down the steps so simply. My husband was even commenting, like, there's not even words. There's no words. It's just pictures. And each page is like a minor step, right? It's like, put this piece with this piece. That's step one. And then at the end, you've built this giant thing. Like we built the El Toro Loco, we built the Hogwarts castle. And so the analogy is like, dream and vision the Hogwarts castle, right? But each step to that Hogwarts castle is one or two bricks that you are putting together. And each step can be very, very simple. And you just keep working. You keep the vision, right? You have the Hogwarts castle box in front of you. You keep the vision, but each step is a tiny little step. And those are the things that help you get to the castle. And oh my God, that's such a good analogy, by the way. And that's what
well done.
That's what this is, right? You and I want to be, we have these goals X, Y, and Z for our podcast. We have goals X, Y, and Z for our businesses, right? But in order to do that, it's these little tiny things. And those things are relationships. Those things are checking the things off the list. Those things are making the list. Sometimes the step is just making the list, opening up the spreadsheet, right? Making the list. And not negating those tiny steps as progress, but also not looking at the Hogwarts castle thinking, I can never get there. It's too big. I'm going to dream smaller. Like you have to make sure that you're giving yourself, you're not limiting yourself what you can do because you're scared.
Right. It's gone. Oh, I had this thought. I keep thinking, you know, the reason that this podcast is in life is because I decided I'm going to write a book. And I'm going to write that book sometime in the next 10 years. I don't know what that book's going to be about yet, you guys. I don't know.
No.
But I felt like having a podcast platform would be a good opportunity to kind of explore some of the ideas and see what people are interested and make sure the messages that I want to talk about are being received.
Yeah.
So that this podcast was a step to that. But what that was really was just starting. Like just start. Just do something, just start. And the podcast is another great example of just starting. So I had this idea. Okay, well, so now I'm going to do a podcast. Okay, let's start. It was Google search. Like, how do you make a podcast? What do you do?
Yeah.
You know, just start collecting information, start compiling that information, start reviewing that information, start seeing what other tasks that finding that information provide or, you know, makes for you to do. So I kind of have been thinking my book might be just start.
Yeah.
Like really just start. So when I wanted to leave my corporate job, I decided that that was something important to do. So I made the spreadsheet of like, okay, here's all our bills. Here's all my income. Here's all my income outside of my corporate income. And like, kind of I just started. I just like, you have to take that first step or you're going to stay exactly where you are. So just start. Just start, you guys. Have your vision and then just start.
Have you seen Mel Robbins talk about the Nike slogan?
No.
Okay, so she asked the question. The Nike slogan is just do it, right?
Right.
And she asked somebody, I forgot who it was. And she's like, what's the most important word in that slogan? What do you think it is?
Do.
Yeah, that's what the guy said. And she said, no, it's just. Right? Because just do it, right? If the slogan was just do it, you'd be like, you know, but it's just like, just do it. Like,
Right.
just do the thing. Just take the step. Just get in the pool. Just, you know, pick up a ball, whatever it is, right? But like you're saying, it's just start, right? Like it's just that, just that, it's just that word, right? And I think so many people are afraid. I mean, and maybe that's something we should talk about as far as creating these big goals and then creating these different steps is like there is a part of this that is we prevent ourselves because of fear. Like it's fear based, right? And this is something I've wanted to talk about on our podcast for a long time. We hear, especially for women, they talk about being fearless. Like, we're going to be fearless and we're going to go out there and be fearless. And I do not agree with that because I'm scared a lot. I'm scared a lot, but I don't allow the fear to stop me, right? Like,
you're scared and you're courageous.
yeah, and you can't be courageous without being scared, right? Like that just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
there would be nothing to be courageous about unless it was scary, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I say don't worry about being fearless. It's okay if you're afraid, but you just do it anyway, right?
Right.
You work through it and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge like, yeah, this is fucking scary, man. Like I moved my entire
Right.
family across the country to a state that we had never lived in a place where we had very little contacts, no family, right? I had a couple friends here and I had like a college alumni association, right? But we just did it because while it was scary, like we knew that if it didn't go the way we wanted, we could just change. So I think that there's, you know, like this idea of addressing fear when it comes to these big goals or it comes to entrepreneurship, like or it comes to like if you're somebody who's listening and you're like, "Oh my god, I wish I could start my own business or I wish I could start my own podcast." Like, well, first of all, you can. You can do that. And if you are scared, like that is very normal. Like I don't want people to think that you and I are this fearless queens that attack everything without any fear or without any skepticism or self-consciousness or worry or wonder like you said, like is anybody going to be interested in listening to us? Yeah, I think we've proved that that is true. People do want to listen to us now. But we didn't know when we first started. We're just like, hell yeah. If no one listens, then it's just you and I having a great chat and it's super fun, right?
Right.
So I think we should, like, you know, like I think addressing that in the beginning of these big goals for your year is like, you don't have to be fearless. Like, please eradicate that from your mind. You can be afraid and you can still do it anyway.
Well, and let's address too, like, okay, so Colleen and I are currently in a phase of our lives where like our vision is like business and growth.
Mhm.
And so our goals are all lined up with that. But I want to go back and remember for a long time, my vision was family,
Yeah.
grow a family, build the family. And then the goals were like keep the children all alive until the end of the day when Alex got home. And I've talked about this before, like we had a period in our marriage where Alex was so goal focused and so like wanting to save money, wanting to make more money, wanting to do me house projects. And I was like, I'm trying to produce enough milk every day and like stay awake. And like I was hanging on by a thread. So my goals looked so different. So if your goals aren't do a TED talk, rule the world as Colleen and I have them right now, then that's okay. And you just be where you are.
Yeah.
The beauty of life is like I get to do what I want to get to do and you get to do what you want to do and they get to do what they want to do and like to each their own, and that's great. So just also don't beat yourself up if your ambitions don't feel as big as what maybe Colleen and I are talking about. That's okay. You're in a
Yeah.
different season than we are. You're a different person than we are. You've had different life experiences. we all get to do what we want to do. So you do you, boo.
Yeah. And what we consider big goals, somebody else might be like, well, those are measly, right? And so
Right.
what you consider a big goal for yourself, you know, might be different than what we consider a big goal for ourselves. When I was 20, in my 20s, my big goals were I wanted to be the first, well, second female athletic trainer in the NFL, and I wanted to get married. Those are my goals. Those are my big goals. I achieved one of those, and it wasn't the NFL. And then in my
when are you and David getting married?
and then I had a big goal of for whatever reason, I wanted to have my first kid by the time I was 30. That was my goal, right? Those were the goals that were important to me at those times. And they were really valid, beautiful, big, wonderful goals, right? And, as I stepped into my 40s, I was able to, we talked about being untethered, right? I was able to untether myself physically from my children and really work on these big business goals. So every season of your life is different. You might be tackling your big business goals in your 20s because you could care less about getting married, right? Or, tackling your wanting to get married in your 40s. Like these are all so personal. Like we don't have to worry about when and what. It's just if you've got a big dream, like we're going to help you figure out a way to get to that, whatever that is.
Okay, so far we've set our visions, and then we've broken that down into specific,
yes,
measurable, attainable goals. Okay, so then the next step is to take those goals and prioritize them.
Yeah.
So what is the most important thing to do first? To create this podcast, I needed to buy a microphone first. There is an order to these things.
Right.
And or let's say you have okay, I have a goal of I've got a goal for my real estate business, my personal life, my podcast, our entrepreneurial business. Okay, where do I want to prioritize my time? And that's important so that you can really spend your time wisely.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing, we're trading for time. Time is our number one currency.
Yep.
So make sure, and this brings me to kind of my word of the year, if you will. My intention for the year is alignment. So I want to make sure everything I'm doing is in alignment with my goals and my values and where I want to be. And so when I'm deciding how I'm going to spend my time, I need to be in alignment with the priorities that I have.
Right.
So you need to actually take those visions, take those goals, now set your priorities. What are you willing to trade your time for first to get to where you want to be? So setting those priorities.
Yeah. And this is like a layered system, right? Like you manifest the goal, like I am a TED talker, right? Whatever that is, right? So you set the goal and then you do your SMART goals and you work through those things, but you're still working on that intention of that goal. Like we don't pass by, like we don't just check off the things and keep going. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? I think what I want to talk about is that they talk about this a lot now. If you're in any kind of world that talks about manifesting, is the reticular activating system, that part of your brain that, it's the analogy of like you want to buy a red Corvette and then everywhere you go, you start seeing red Corvettes because that's what's on your mind and that's what you're thinking about when you weren't seeing any of them before. And so we've talked about this in a couple different episodes about that hyper focus. Well, this is kind of in that same vein of like, if we want to be on a TED Talk, right? Then that's something we're thinking about all the time. And then you start to search for those things, right? And then they start to come up and you start to see different ways that you can, achieve the smaller steps to get to those goals.
So after set priorities, it's exactly that. Like visualize your success.
Yeah.
Like start to picture yourself living that life that you have, that vision you've set forward, and keep that in the forefront of your mind. And I think why manifestation and affirmations and stuff are so powerful is because if that is what if that's what's on your mind every day, then the actions that you're taking will become in alignment with that, because that is what your focus is day in and day out.
Right.
So if I am, I mean, weight loss has always been a goal. You know, that's like a one that I think a lot of people chase.
Yeah.
So if you are like every day weighing yourself, if you are every day, you know, looking up healthy recipes and visualizing yourself in that body, like the choices you make will more likely be in alignment with that, because that's what's on your mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's so manifestation is powerful in that you're visualizing, you're believing it, you're sending the vibrations, all of that woo-woo stuff that Brittany Hoops talked about in her episode.
Mhm.
But then it's also like those thoughts are what is guiding your actions.
Right.
So that is where that becomes so powerful. If this is like staying on the forefront of your mind, each choice you make, like it's running through that filter. Like, I want this. And then like you're thinking about that all day long. So like my choice X, Y, and Z that I'm going to make today, more than likely are going to be in alignment with that, because that's what's on my mind. That's
Right.
my focus. That's my intention.
Right. And that's why vision
So
boards are part of that, right? Because it's something that you look at every day, something that you see, so that you're constantly keeping that vision, so that you're constantly looking at your goals. Some people need the visual of that, right?
right.
Or like for you,
Well,
you have
and
your spreadsheet, right? You're looking at your spreadsheet every single day. What does that look like?
right. So historically, that's the step I've missed. Like I set these goals. I'm great visionary.
Mhm.
And then I create this spreadsheet and I'm doing good. I've got step 1, I've got step 2, I've got step 3, visualize success. Yeah, I think I do that, but then I've never like printed out the goal list and had it like just sitting there. Like it's not something I'm looking at every single day. It's filed away in my Google Drive somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what really needs to change for me this year, is like keeping those goals in front of my eyes every single day in maybe a vision bulletin board where I've got 3 different, you know, checklists standing there of the things I'm wanting to achieve in each of these different areas of my life, so that every day I'm looking at that and I'm reminding myself, so that then as I move through my day, I'm running all of my choices and decisions through that filter of these are the things I want to achieve this year.
Yeah, I think that's why you don't have to do anything. I hate when people say that. But that's why I think having something physical in the physical universe to see is really helpful, because listen, shit's not going to go exactly how you want it to go. Like we can do all of these, we can set our SMART goals, we could do the things, and we blah, 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 right? And sometimes it doesn't work. So, but you have to have that, it's having that visual in front of you to be like, oh God, yeah, I do really want to buy that house this year. I do really want to start investing this year. Okay. So what I did before wasn't working. What can I do again? And you're going to have to start pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. You're going to have to start working on resilience. You're going to have to start realizing that failure is not bad, right? Failure is just it's like a science experiment, right? It's just the thing that helps you get to the next experiment.
And I think that failure, honestly, I think the only way that you fail is if you quit.
Right.
And not if you quit something that no longer serves you.
Sure.
Guys, quit all day long. Quit the shit that you don't want to do anymore.
Right.
Say on October 1st, you set a goal of doing X, Y, and Z, and now you're like, fuck, I actually don't like X, Y, and Z. Like,
Yeah.
I've done more research. I have more information now. I don't want to start a podcast anymore. A podcast sounds stupid to me now. Quit.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
But don't quit something you want, because then you're failing. But if you keep going, I was just talking to my uncle about this yesterday, and I was talking about, like a big vision, and I'm breaking it down into goal for me is like, I want to bring in enough streams of revenue that if my husband no longer wants to do his job, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And, I'm working on it here and I'm working on it there and I'm working on it there. And I'm like, I'm going to succeed at this. I'm going to get there. And the reason I know I'm going to get there is because I'm not going to stop. And if you don't stop, you're going to eventually get there.
Right.
So failure is quitting something that you want, in my opinion, which is maybe why I always have felt like I don't feel like I failed a lot in my life.
Yeah.
I make mistakes absolutely all day long. Queen of mistakes. I falter. Things don't work out exactly how I think or want them to. And then I keep going, I pivot, I adapt, I'm flexible. And those are some of the other steps that come down on my list is review and adapt and stay committed and stay flexible. Persistence is the key.
Yeah.
If you stay committed to your goals and you're flexible in how you're going to achieve them, you eventually will achieve them.
Yeah.
You just can't quit.
Yeah. And you can't, yes. And I think one of the things that I think may be challenging for people is that flexibility. Like there are a certain type of people where, they want the systems to work perfectly and they don't always, hardly ever.
Which is really fucking frustrating. I am one of those people. I want everything to go according to plan. I have a plan and I want the plan to be executed perfectly.
Yeah.
I want it to go by the vision that I've set up, the visualization that I've put into place. That's what I want. And I get super frustrated when things don't go to plan. But I can then, and I know that I have to then adapt and be flexible and problem solve and find another way through. I'm reading those books right now by Rebecca Yarrow, the Fourth Wing and the Iron Wing, or something like that. And the main character is like very frail and like can't really do things in the way that other people, it's like a kind of a war story. She can't really do things in the way the other characters can. And one of the guys told her like, so do it different.
Yeah.
You can still do it different. So she's had to overcome like these crazy obstacles by just looking at it differently from how the rest of the group has been doing it. So just being creative and being flexible and being persistent is going to be key to then achieving these goals.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we have had our vision. We've set our goals. We've set our priorities. We're visualizing our success and we're doing that daily. Okay. Now we're creating an action plan for how to get there. So like, this is like, now we're breaking those goals now into like manageable tasks. So I was recently introduced to this method of when you're planning, figure out what you need to research, figure out what you need to review, and then figure out what your action items are for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have also heard this phrase like plan your day around your energy, not your time. So I'm speaking to the women here because we only have two or three male listeners. So we have a cycle, each of us. It's a month-long cycle. And at different points in that cycle, we have different strengths.
Yeah.
And we have different weaknesses and we have different abilities. So pay attention to your body and what part of the month or week or day even that's an optimal time to spend time researching or an optimal time to spend time reading. Like if you hand me something to read after 2:00 in the day, I will comprehend almost nothing.
Goodbye.
If I read that at 7:30 in the morning, clear as glass. 2:00 in the afternoon, clear as mud. It is so crazy. I remember the first time I noticed this, and maybe like our young listeners haven't experienced this yet. Maybe it comes with age, but I remember being at work one day and getting a long email from a client. And I was like, I don't know. I'm reading it and I'm like so stumped. This doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not even sure I follow his email. So I slept on it. I just didn't respond, and I'm like, let me just take some time to think on this. I reread the email the next morning and I was like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
It was just so crazy how much my brain didn't work at 2:00 in the afternoon and how much it did work at 7:00 in the morning. And your month is going to be like that too. There's going to be times where like, you're like, I just can't make myself think. I can't make myself get out of bed. So that's not the time to task yourself with doing massive research for a project.
Correct.
Maybe that's the time to be quiet with yourself and maybe visualize what you want. And then there's probably going to be a time where like yesterday, Colleen and I are on the phone. You guys, we had the biggest shit show trying to have like a 10-minute conversation. Oh, hold on. I got to put you right back. Oh, hold on. Yeah, life of a realtor. But like we needed to just start. We just needed to start with this retreat planning we're bringing to you guys. And so we're having this call and I'm kind of thinking, I've been thinking all these things through, but I just hadn't put anything on paper. And it was as simple as like, okay, so we're talking about this. Now let's just research. Research is easy. I mean, getting the resources to review is easy. So like Google search this, Google search this, Google search this. Now I just need to organize these things so that I can come back when my brain is in the right space to actually review this information and figure out how we're going to implement it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking so much shower thought because it's the only time like I don't have my phone and I'm not, I'm not distracted by all of those other things. But Pinterest, you guys, we need to go back to using Pinterest to organize our thoughts and our ideas and our goals and our research to achieve these goals. So like Colleen and I can have a shared Pinterest board where we're just saving like venues, and here we're saving like topics and we're saving like swag ideas or whatever it is. And then you can just be collecting this information. And then when your brain is in the right spot, now you go back and you review that. And then you figure out what the implementation of this information that you've now got. So it's different steps, and you don't have to it doesn't have to be find the resource, read the resource, make the action item and do the action item all at once. It can be as simple as like, I'm going to find 5 resources today.
Right.
And that's what my brain can handle right now.
I want to go back to the point of you talking about like periods of the day where you're more active. This is something I realized not until my late 30s, early 40s. It's that same idea of like, wake up and exercise, then you do this, then you do that, then you do that. I am super on fire early in the morning. So if I exercise during that time, I feel like I'm wasting my brain power, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's similar to you. Like, probably that's because we're not so tired and we haven't been like beat down by our children by the end of the day. But also, everybody's cycles of this activity are different. My husband will stay up all night working on stuff. And I'm like, do not talk to me about anything once I am in our bed. Like, do not show me a spreadsheet because I will murder you. Right. But that's when that's when he has time to relax because he goes to work super early. And I'm just like, when you're working with a partner like you and I, we're also on a time difference and we've got time zone different, whatever. It's understanding and recognizing those partners and when those partners are active and giving each other a little bit of grace on that as well, which is why, you and I working together is really great because we just throw everything. We can just throw the ideas into the spreadsheet and then we can find a time when we can talk about those things. But sometimes for me, like yesterday, I was able to quickly research a bunch of hotels in the car, in the parking lot where I was sitting right outside of going to get my passport photo done, where they totally did me dirty and I have to go get it redone, which I was so pissed about, by the way. But I was like, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to sit here and on my phone, look up 3 or 4 hotels. And use those times. Like, use those. If you have those times, use those times. I think we have to just find a way, right? Because some people will be like, I don't have 2 or 3 hours to sit down in the morning and do research. And this is the best and hardest part about our life and our world is that we have these little pockets of times. Like somebody once said, I used to sell like Stella and Dot and things like that like multi-level marketing, like side hustle kind of stuff. And they would say, fit your business into the pockets and windows of your life, right? And that sometimes
Arvon said nooks and crannies.
Yeah, nooks and crannies.
Put it in the nooks and crannies.
Exactly. Yeah. They all say the same thing, right? But it's like, okay, if I'm sitting in the car while my son's at soccer, right? I can do 2 things. One, I can go out and talk to the parents and create relationships, or I can sit in the car and I can knock a bunch of research out. You just have to make decisions on what is the right thing to do at that time. But those are...
And be running that through your filter. Like, what if you're visualizing your success and you're prioritizing it, what is your priority today? And you're keeping that in front of you every day. You've got your goal list in front of you every day. You've got your vision board in front of you every day. So everything's being run through that filter. So if you're like, wow, I really need more connection for this business right now, this is my priority, then you're going to get out of the car.
Yeah.
Because you've run it through this filter. And now that's the appropriate decision to make. Or you are like, okay, we're on I've set this timeline on this goal. Like I have a specific actionable, measurable, time sensitive goal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I need to be spending my time on because you've run that through that filter because you're keeping that visualization in front of you.
Yeah.
You're manifesting it. You're keeping it at the forefront of your brain. So you get to make those choices after you run through that filter.
And I guess I wanted to bring that up because I am somebody who really likes schedule and who really likes routine. But if the routine doesn't go, like if the routine gets thrown off by one thing, I get really thrown. So I've actually stepped away from routine in like a backlash way of like, if I don't have a routine, then it can't get messed up. Does that make sense? And so I have figured out and had to adjust and had to adapt, because once you have kids, like, you can set routines for your kids, but they get fucked real quick, right? Like, somebody pukes, your routine's done. Like, you're on a time schedule like this, somebody's got to go poop, you're done, right? Like, you're done, right?
My nemesis.
Why are they always having to poop in like the most random places?
You guys, my kids love to poop in public places.
Yeah.
It's like their passion, I think. So I'll go to socialize with you. Sorry for the sidebar, but I'll meet you somewhere. We're going to a brewery. We're going to have a nice beer, hang out, relax, let the kids run around. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
I'm going to spend 20 minutes in the bathroom while each of my children take a turn pooping.
Yep.
It's my favorite.
It's so like, that's life. And so I had to take this very like regulated preference towards structure and adapt to the fact that that is just not happening for me right now. So then it's like, okay, well, I've got 20 minutes in the car. I've got 10 minutes while they do this. And sometimes that is rest time, and that's fine. And sometimes that is work time, and sometimes that is life planning time. So I just want to throw that out for people who feel like having a really rigid schedule feels really overwhelming. Like, you can do this. You can do it. You can find little pockets of time. It doesn't all have to be at one time. Like, do 15 minutes here, do 10 minutes there, whatever, and find those little pockets find the nooks and crannies in your life to do those things, and add to your life so that you can keep working on these goals. So I think that that's important to talk about, because there are so many of us who are really structured and who love structure. And then there are so many of us who that is really scary for, or who want structure, but their life doesn't facilitate that right now because their children are pooping every public place that they go.
Constantly. Okay. So we visualized, we're creating our action plan. We're breaking all those actions into tiny little tasks. So it's manageable and it's not overwhelming, and you've got a list. Okay, I would be remiss. Susie, I'm going to do this for us. We need to have a task list, and we need to have that task list in one place.
Yep.
We don't need 17 task lists. We need one place that we go to that has all of the things that we're doing. And we need to be looking at that every single day and checking things off our task list and reassigning. If you don't get through your task list today, fine, just move that to tomorrow. But you need to have a task list, and you need to have it in one place, and you need to be able to find it. So like 17,000 sheets of paper, you guys, probably not the best system to stay organized so that you can stay on track to achieve these goals. My apologies for all you slips of paper people. I understand. I like them too. If you're a paper person, you need a notebook, one single notebook, not 17 notebooks. Jennifer Vick, looking at you, one single notebook to keep track of all of your tasks and all of the things
I don't know what you are talking about.
So for our audio listeners,
I don't know what you're talking about.
1, 2, 3, 4 different notebooks in her hands right now. Oh, 5. So she is this. I'm not just talking to Jennifer Vick.
No,
I'm also talking
I
to
love a written notebook.
Colleen Hungerford.
But I also keep everything on my phone. So you can be that person. I like to write things down, and sometimes I write them down in multiple places, but I do keep everything on my phone. And I am
got like a master.
But sometimes I just need to write it down.
And some resources for this, you guys, if you need a place where you can keep track of like all these goals, Asana is a great place, and they've got a free version, and you can organize by your different categories of goals, all your different visions, if you would. Or Google has task lists that you could be using. If you're a Compass agent like me, use the Compass task list. There's so many resources. Or use a spreadsheet if you're going to keep it open and you can check it off every single day. Just find that place, and hopefully it's somewhere that you can have it everywhere you go so that you can really stay on top of it. And in those nooks and crannies, when you find 5 minutes in your day, you can pull up that task list and say, oh, I did that. Actually, I'm not going to have time for that. I'm moving that to tomorrow, change the due date on it and stuff. So do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got all our little tiny manageable tasks. We are setting deadlines and milestones for those tasks so that we can stay on top of it. So if I have the goal to if Colleen and I have the goal and the vision to do this retreat this year, and we have now set a deadline that like we need to have pricing, lodging information out to our
Listeners.
what are you guys? Our friends?
Our friends. Our friends.
Our friends. Our friends by March, April, like 6 months ahead. So now we've set that deadline. And now when we are running things through our filter, our vision board, like that's going to have to be a priority because we've set this deadline for ourselves.
Yes.
And
we've made it.
Every little task is on a sooner deadline so that we can meet this big deadline for that goal.
And here's a tip. If you have a goal, like this is a big tip, I think, you have to tell somebody because then it makes it real, right? Like we've been talking about this retreat. We've been talking about it. We've been starting to put some plans together. Then we announced it to the world. And now we're like, oh,
here we go.
Here we go. Now we actually have to do this. This is no longer a dream. This is a reality. You have to do it. So tell somebody, and it doesn't matter who it is. You just tell somebody. It can be the lady who waxes your eyebrows. It can be the grocery checker. It can be your mom or dad. It literally can be anybody, but you have to tell somebody so that it's real. Preferably somebody who's going to be supportive. Don't tell somebody who's going to be a hater, or maybe that motivates you.
Yeah, get rid of the haterators. Okay, so now we are reviewing and adapting and staying committed and flexible. That is throughout. That goes like throughout this whole process. We're visualizing our success. We're staying flexible. We're reviewing and adapting as needed. We're staying committed. Persistence is key. We talked about this already. If you quit something you want to do, you failed. Otherwise, you didn't. It's just all steps along the path. And the path to where you want to go may not be linear. You may go up and down and 3 steps backwards and 2 steps forward and all of that. But if you just stay committed and you are persistent, then you will succeed in one shape or form. Okay. And then seek support and feedback. So this is my favorite thing to do. I love to crowdsource, but if I have a goal, I was thinking about this yesterday. So I'm building out the budget for the retreat and like what we need to spend. And Susie, Jennifer, and Eliza are doing micro like 2-day retreats basically right now every month.
Yeah.
They have a system for this. You better bet your ass I will be making the phone call to them and be like, what does your budget look like? Here's what mine looks like. What did I forget? Is there anything that, and use resources and use tools. So if you think I don't go to ChatGPT 3 times a day to be like, how should I be doing this?
Yeah.
You're crazy. ChatGPT is really great at like making you actionable lists and like, okay, I need to create a budget for this thing I'm doing. Get as specific as you can when you're putting information into that thing. I'm creating a retreat for women entrepreneurs. I want it to be a holistic focus, mind, body, soul. I want it to be 3 nights. I'd like it to be in somewhere beautiful in the fall. And I want there to be excursions and this and that and all these things. What items should I plan for on my budget? And it's going to then kick out things that maybe you didn't think about, or maybe you had already thought about them, or maybe you're at a block and you can't start, like you just can't get started. Go there and use that tool or that resource first to get the juices flowing and get you going.
Absolutely.
I'm also a huge component. This probably should have come earlier, but like brain dump, like sit down. I guess this used to be called stream of consciousness in school or whatever, but like just sit down and dump everything out of your brain somewhere and then look at it, and it will create more ideas and like it'll help you decide like what direction you need to go first, and it can help just put you on the path. So maybe that's kind of vision boarding, brainstorming, all of that. Like just dump your brain, and then show someone like, hey, friend over here, I know you have a really big strength in marketing. Like this is what I'm doing this year. These are my thoughts so far. Like, what do you think? Use that. Like rise by lifting others and surround yourself with other people that are doing the same. So really just on my soapbox over here, feeling very passionately about this.
I 100% agree. And I am somebody who, and my husband, for better or for worse, is like the person for me. So if I'm like, I'm really upset about this, I just need to vomit out all the things that are in my mind right now. For me, I have to say them, right? And that means saying them to another person, and usually means it's David, poor guy. And I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And he has learned he doesn't need to tell me what to do with that. I just needed to say those things to somebody else to literally get them out of my mind so that I could think more clearly or more focused. Very early on, he wanted to solve those problems for me. And I'm like, I don't want you to.
Yes, that was what I was going to say. How great is that he's now been conditioned to know, like, I'm just talking and I just need you to listen and just be supportive in the background. But you guys, it's completely okay to tell whoever you're talking to, like, hey, I just need to brain dump right now. I'm not looking for solutions.
Yeah.
I'm just looking in ear. And please, like, preface those conversations. I find myself often, one of the things that I do for work is I support au pairs and host families through their time together, and conflict arises. It's just reality. And sometimes the au pairs will reach out and they're like brain dumping, emotion dumping, whatever you want to call it. And I immediately go into, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? I need to remember to ask them, as the receiver of this, are you looking for a solution or are you looking to vent?
Yeah.
Let me know which hat you'd like me to put on. I have both. My default is to solve all your problems. But if that is not what you want from me today, I just need to know that that's not what you want from me today. And I need to do that for Alex, and I need to do that for my friends and my mom. When I'm calling to vent, I just need to remind them, like, this conversation is a vent. This isn't a problem-solving session.
Yeah, my friend Bobna is very good at that. Like, I'll text her something or whatever, and she will say, "Do you need support or do you want feedback?" And a lot of times I'll say, I want a little bit of both. Like,
yeah,
that's what I do.
Start with support.
Yeah.
And then we'll transition into feedback.
Yeah. And I think that's so imperative to the planning vision process. You have to be able to have a way to kind of dump these things, because there's going to be a lot and this also has a lot to do with, especially for women, the mental load, right? Like all the things that you're holding on to in order to get really hyper focused on what you're trying to do. You might have to do that. You probably do. You probably just have to dump all the things out in a way that is probably like, don't be abusive to your spouse. Don't yell at your spouse, because I am very guilty of just being like, blah, 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 there's so much laundry and there's so much dishes and I can't handle it all and blah, 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 and just have a meltdown. And he's like, ugh. But sometimes that's what I need to do in order to be like, oh God, okay, now I can work on this project, because we are all holding on to so much all the time.
Right. Okay, so the last step in all of this, you guys, celebrate your success.
Hell yeah.
Celebrate your accomplishments. Like, there's this book called The Gap and the Gain. I think it's by Dan Sullivan. I'll put it in the show notes. The premise behind it is, imagine yourself climbing a mountain. If you are always looking at the peak, at the summit, it's like, oh my God, I have so far to go. Like, you're only ever looking up and how much more work you have to do. But if you stop and you turn around and you look at how far you've come, that is worth celebrating. And that will help remotivate you, and that will help you stay consistent and stay persistent, because you're looking at how far you've come and not just constantly beating up yourself about how far you have to go. So when you're climbing this mountain towards these big visions, towards these big goals, stop, turn around, and look at everything you've done.
Yeah.
And I bet you'll be really impressed with yourself, and that deserves celebrating.
Absolutely. And we're here to celebrate with you. We'll cheer you to bits.
Yes. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys walk away today feeling like super motivated and inspired, and with a plan that you can put into place in your own life, so that you can turn your visions into your summit, and you can turn around and see how far you've come and celebrate. So,
and
cheers. Happy New Year.
Yeah. And share those things with us. Like, let us champion your dreams. Like, if there's a way, and Cheryl and I will always say this, and I know we have to wrap up, but if you have a big goal or you have a big dream and you need help with that, that's literally what we love to do. So please let us know, and let us know how we can be helpful, or let us know, and maybe we have resources that can help you with that. So please reach out.
Teamwork makes the dream work, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.